I think when you're so in the weeds of it, you don't even know if you're enjoying it, if you're not enjoying it. I just remember feeling wrecked. And, coming together with Sarah to say, the most important thing is that we want to enjoy this. At the end of the day, we're not saving lives. We're making people happy. And I think we get a huge joy out of knowing that what we're fueling customers with is good quality ingredients. What we're feeding people with is protein, which is what we all need in our lives. We're feeding people with collagen to help their bones. Where we're seeing the market with all the GLP-1s going with this, the importance of protein, and we can stand over our product, be so proud of it. But at the end of the day, there's only so much we can do. And I'm not prepared to jeopardize my mum role, which is my most important role.
Jayne Ronayne, thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Could we start with OAC Snacks? What is it? What do you do? And what kind of makes it different?
OAC Snacks is a snack, as you've just said from the name. What it is, it's something very different. It is definitely a passion project of mine. I'm a huge, huge, huge lover of food. I'm a huge lover of clean ingredients as well. Find that there is really nothing on the market that could give me a very good snack that I could really enjoy, give me a bit of protein, but actually kind of feel good as well, not feeling kind of like, oh gosh, that's kind of not the nicest thing that I could put into my body. So OAC Snacks is a healthy, high protein, tasty snack.
So how did the kind of idea come about? Your background is more tech and everything, which I want to get into. But how did you get into snacks and food?
So I have no experience in food apart from loving food. And I suppose to make a very long story short, I am from Cork, so we tend to talk a lot. And as my co-founder Sarah kept reminding me, she's like, please don't drink any coffee before the podcast because you're already talking enough and fast enough. But Sarah, a very good friend of mine, ran a coffee shop for years called Bean Brownie. And Bean Brownie in Cork was just the place to be. Queues out the door. But what made it special is that all of the snacks were high protein, clean, but they tasted really good. And this became a shop we went to once, twice, 3 times a day. You had everything from the Munster rugby team in there, from the local accountant to mums and dads, just had everybody from every the corner of Cork, and they closed. And I was devastated. There was a big chunk of our life gone. And it only when it closed, I realized just how important food is in our lives. I'm useless in the kitchen. Useless. And I kind of said, but like, Jayne, bake my own snacks. And I had just become a mum as well, so I was becoming very kind of hyper aware of what am I going to put into Ollie. I don't have time to kind of bake these things that I really, really want to, nor do I really kind of have the skill set to do it. So I just kind of kept on thinking, I was like, God, I'd love to do something in this space. I kind of couldn't find anything that I enjoyed. I had started importing protein bars from the States, a brand called RX Bar, and then they had a bar called the David Bar. And again, I was like, God, they taste grand. I wasn't craving them. I wasn't looking forward to them. I just was like, it's fine. So I met Sarah through Bean Brownie. Sarah is the founder of Bean Brownie, and she is just fabulous, really, really special. And I think over the years when I got to know her with Bean Brownie, I suppose coming from the background of, I suppose, having one business that I was running, I kind of always kept looking at her business being like, why aren't you doing more of this? Like, people are willing to put their hands into their pocket time and again. This should be everywhere. And I had lived in the States for a few years and I never tasted anything just as good. And Sarah had customers that would come back at Christmas time and they would be buying bulks of these protein balls, bringing them back to Australia where they were living at the time, or the US, freezing them, like really just like minding these products because there was nothing like them on the market. So over a walk one day with Sarah, the two of us just happened to be at the right time at the right space. I had previously sold my company Tallyvest and I had left the company that I was working with, and Sarah decided to close up Bean Brownie. She just really wanted something different. And I was also pregnant at the time, which was always a great time to start a business. And I just said to Sarah, I said, look, I'm coming from the tech background. You're coming from the food background. I really want these snacks. Let's see if we can just take your hero product, which is a crunchy peanut ball, which you have in front of you. Let's put it online and just see, will it sell? Let's just see. Like, no, let's not put ourselves under pressure. Let's just see. And we did it really quickly. I built the website. Sarah made the product. Before we knew it, we had 1,000 people on a waiting list, and kind of overnight, it went from an idea to selling out kind of within days, and then kind of saying, okay, let's make more, selling out again, and then kind of saying, okay, this could kind of potentially be something here. And 8 months later, we're nearly 200,000 protein balls in, and now looking to really, really scale the business.
Yeah, like it's interesting. If I was thinking about, a business to go into or to start, I think, healthy snacks are absolutely the industry is growing. People want more of this stuff and everything, but it's very competitive. Is what I would think before doing it. Were you surprised in any way at the kind of reception you got online for it when testing it?
Yes and no. We know our customer really, really intimately. We purposely decided to go direct to consumer first. We really didn't want to start in retail. We wanted to understand who is this product for? Why would you put your hand into your pocket? Why are you buying our product over a competitor product? And what we found out is that a lot of our customers are busy mums and dads, busy professionals. They want something that they enjoy. They work hard. We all have that feeling when we stop in a garage or in a shop, and you want the chocolate, like you want the bold stuff, but it's not worth the feeling afterwards of kind of feeling, God, my sugar is dipped. I just don't feel great after it. So you will settle for another protein bar brand. And I feel like a lot of our customers were kind of getting to the stage where they wanted more, and they almost were coming to the stage where, let's say, if they had another protein bar, they kind of felt they were kind of doing the right thing, but really it was kind of hidden with loads of preservatives. You look at the back of pack, there could be 50 ingredients in there. And I feel like at the time we were starting Oak, because this market is growing really quickly, customers want to know what's in their food. They really, really do. I think there's certain things you can kind of say, look, that's fine, a takeaway or whatever. But I think when it comes to everyday snacks, you really do want to understand what you're putting into your body. So I think the fact that we started with saying, look, this is good, it's not bad, but this tastes amazing. We're not promising you that it's, the lowest calorie bar. We're not saying it's only 2 ingredients. What we're saying is it's clean ingredients that you understand. You get 10 grams of protein, but most importantly, it tastes amazing. I feel our competitors are doing a really, obviously doing a very good job. Some of them are leading with, let's put loads of chocolate on it. Let's call it Oreo, let's do a partnership with Oreo or cream egg and kind of chuck it in there. And they're very heavy ingredients. They're, almost overindulging. And then you have others that, again, are clean ingredients. You get maybe 10 or 15 grams of protein, but they taste fine. We wanted to create a product that was craveable, that fitted into your routine. We call it a snack or an oak moment. And really wanting our customers to not only feel good, but really enjoy it. So I adore the product myself. My parents enjoy it. My 4-year-old Ollie loves them. It gives me huge joy to see how this actually becomes part of your routine. Particularly even my dad, he swapped out his 7 p.m. cup of tea and 2 biscuits with his cup of tea and a protein ball. Because I feel like not only do we want to live longer, but we want to feel great as well. We want to perform at our best. We don't want to just settle. And I feel like a lot of our customers are really kind of looking at what they're putting into their bodies. The Saturday kind of nights are kind of dwindling away at the moment. It's more about, let's do early dinners, start the day right the next day on a Sunday with a fabulous coffee and a snack, instead of the late nights not feeling great the next day. So I think for us, we keep coming back to taste. We want our customers to really enjoy the product and crave the product.
Tell me, let's go back just a little bit. Tell me about Talavest. How was that? How did you start that business? My understanding is it pretty much came from something you started in college, so you've never really worked in a corporate environment or anything like that. You know, how did you kind of get into Talavest and entrepreneurship generally?
Tallyvest in many ways, I suppose, it's replicating the experience with Oak. I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea about the market. I certainly did not come from a coding background. I am very dyslexic. So getting into university for me was just, I suppose, in my way, that's 600 points. I just kind of wanted to get in the doors, and I did politics in UCC, which I loved. I never saw myself being a politician, but I suppose it gave me a gateway into societies, and I got really involved in the Entrepreneurial Society and the Commerce Society. And I suppose our kitchen table growing up was talking about business. My dad runs his own company, my mum ran her own company, and the conversations were always really engaging and always asking questions about how does that work. And my dad runs a shipping company, so all of a sudden I would say, but how did you get that ship to work? And so really interesting conversations the whole time. And in university, I suppose being in societies, I loved my time in college, and I wanted to capture every moment of it. And I just came up with a very simple idea in my final year of doing a yearbook. And little did I know that this yearbook would eventually pivot into a company called Connect Again, which was an alumni relations software system. And then that pivoted from alumni relations then into alumni relations in the corporate sector, which led me on to Talivest, which was a people analytic software system. So really starting from an idea of how do I connect back to people and how can I connect people together. And it always, I suppose, held on to that concept. We just did it in different formats. And it was an amazing journey. It was a 7-year journey, which really kind of felt like overnight in many ways. I was very naive. I didn't know how to start a business. I didn't know how to fundraise. I suppose I'm always inquisitive and I love people. So I always would reach out, probably at times when I had no business reaching out to people, but I still did. There was times I'd jump on a plane and just say, look, I just happen to be in the area, to following, an investor around the world in 3 different locations, getting no's until eventually I got yeses. Failing without realizing that I was failing, pivoting without really understanding what a pivot was. And I loved it. It was amazing. And because I didn't work anywhere else before, I didn't know any better. And when we were acquired, it was my first time working for another company. And again, amazing to see behind the scenes of, a huge, billion-dollar company and what happens. And I learned so much. And I think the big lesson knowing is that the problems that you have in a small team of 10 are the exact same in a big company with 600 people. And I suppose that gave me huge learnings that, every company goes through highs and lows. Um, and I kind of came away from it really enjoying my time, but knowing if I wanted to do something again, I had the confidence and I suppose a new pair of skills to say, we're going to do it big and we're going to scale big, because why not? The problems are still going to be the same in a small company versus a big company.
What about having dyslexia? Has it kind of informed or kind of shaped you in any way, do you think, that has either helped or hindered you on this journey?
Definitely, it's been a very positive experience. I'm very thankful that I grew up in a household that it was very much celebrated. It was never seen as a disadvantage. My brother Barry would have gotten 600 points, engineer, top of his class. And I was, very different. And my parents thankfully always kind of said, look, there's 7 forms of learning, 7 types of how we all kind of adapt to things. So thankfully I was kind of brought up in that environment. I think it was hard in school because again, I don't think the education system was maybe set up for success for dyslexia students. I kind of feel my teachers didn't know how to cope. My type of dyslexia was it would take me 3 times longer to do something than say the average person. So I struggled with that. In terms of business, and Sarah, if she was sitting here, she'd be laughing that we are very much the yin and the yang of each other. I'm hugely impatient. I don't understand why folks would have a meeting about a meeting about a meeting. I don't understand why sometimes somebody would see, all the obstacles. I don't understand why you have to go and trail something. The best trail you can do is actually just go and sit in front of a customer and say, what do you think? So I think that's been a huge advantage. I think I get very upset with early founders when I see them getting so caught up in the small details, and there's nothing wrong with it, but spending months doing a business plan when a business plan is actually completely irrelevant. The most important thing you need to be doing is somebody going to buy your product? What does somebody think of your product? So I think for me, the dyslexia was a huge benefit because that was kind of a driver in me that I just wanted to get somewhere, had to look at something a little bit different. If I wanted to catch up, I had to find a way to catch up, if that made sense.
Did you always want to be an entrepreneur? You said that obviously you've a entrepreneurial family and family business and everything. Was it always something that you thought, "Oh, I'll definitely do that when I'm finished college"?
I didn't even know what the word entrepreneur was. And my dad, he never would call himself an entrepreneur, nor would my mom. Um, so funnily enough, I remember I was in third year. Yeah, I was in third year, and I was away with my mom. And Dropbox Ireland were just setting up at that time. And I remember getting a phone call. I must have thrown it in a CV or something. And I remember them offering me a sales role at the time. And I think, I don't know, it was like a 50,000 salary or something, which again, to like a third year student, you're like, Jesus, absolutely. Um, and it was really exciting. It was for a sales role. I always saw myself in a sales position in scaling. I loved, I just loved selling. I loved being in front of people. My only job outside of my own business was actually working with Cully and Sully, and they would throw me into a car and I'd have to drive around Ireland trying to sell Cully and Sully soups into the super valleys and the centres, and I loved it. But I remember the time getting that phone call, and I was between trying to decide, do I go and start the first company called Your Yearbook, and or should I go with the safe job of a Dropbox? And I just remember chatting to my mom and her saying, I think you should absolutely go for your yearbook. I remember thinking like, God, I thought you were going to say Dropbox. And I'm always so appreciative of that I could come home and that was encouraged. And it was very much kind of seen as there's nothing bad that you can get from this. If anything, it's just the best learning curve that you can possibly get. Um, so yeah, I think after that, I kind of loved the fact that in your yearbook, I think there's so many different types of forms of CEOs. And I'm definitely the CEO that loves to sell. So I knew my passion and my skills I would always be in selling and connecting people. Um, I'm also, I suppose, bold enough to be open with what I'm not good at as well. So I think that's works really, really well for our team and worked very well with Taliwest. I think that's important to be able to say, here's what I'm not good at.
What are you not good at?
Details. Um, Sometimes being impatient can be a great thing, but sometimes it can be a very bad thing. Sometimes there's certain projects you have to read it, the finer details. You have to sit back, wait for things. Um, Sarah, my partner in Oak, is incredible at that. Her attention to detail is incredible, particularly when it comes to a food product. You absolutely need to be in on the detail. There's no room for error. There's, it's a consumable product. It's completely different. So she and myself will come up with an idea. I will kind of go and run and say, I've actually got us a meeting already. Where Sarah's kind of saying, we haven't even made the product. This needs to go through like a certain certification. So I definitely think it's great to have the best of both. I think other probably areas that I'm not good at, that's definitely kind of the big one, is at the being impatient. Asking for help is a big one. Um, we were very lucky in Taliavis. We had an amazing support and board of investors that were there whenever you needed them. And sometimes as a founder, you need help, but you don't know how to ask for help, if that makes sense. You know something's not right, or you're not feeling great, and you'll keep going and going and going and going until it's kind of eventually either a burnout happens or something major happens that you're kind of saying, God, I wish I just kind of said, look, something's not right. I kind of just need to talk something through. And sometimes I think in my head, definitely in the Talivest days, until something was like so perfectly placed that I could chat about it to him, saying this is the exact problem and I just need a solution to this problem, I wouldn't go and talk about that problem. Whereas in Oak, I've just come from 2 meetings where one of them I saying, look, I kind of want to do this in 2027. I have no idea how to do it. Can we just chat about it? And all of a sudden, a problem doesn't become a problem, it becomes a challenge. It's interesting, it's exciting. So I'm definitely trying to kind of, I suppose, challenge myself more to say it's okay to actually not have the answer exactly right, or even to know exactly what the problem is.
Like in Talives, I'm kind of wondering, you're quite young to be kind of so comfortable with what you're not good at. I would say now, obviously, having had the experience growing up, where your parents are going to tell you to, do the thing that makes you happy or do the thing that excites you is great, and maybe that has something to do with it. But do you think you kind of learned those lessons during Talives and during those days, or was it kind of before that?
I think it's a bit of both. One of the Look, one of the big lessons with your own company is you're going to hear a lot of no's, and a lot of no's in investment, in sales, in team members deciding it's not for them. Like, it is hard. And I'm always fascinated meeting with different founders, at different, I suppose, parts of their journey where, some are really focused on fundraising, some are really focused on really trying to kind of scale. Like, there's always challenges, and I would never recommend anybody to join a startup or start a company if they don't have that understanding that it's hard. Like, you're going to hear a lot of no's. You have to be resilient. Um, and again, I would have struggled with that with team members in the past. Kind of, I think some folks would have a perception that joining a company when you're starting is so fun, and it's kind of like, the social network movie. Everything looks great. It's fast paced, and like, yes, to an element, but there's a huge amount of it that's very difficult, like really, really difficult. I think I was lucky that I would naturally be very optimistic. So I suppose, to give one story, I was fundraising with Talyvest, and again, getting my foot in the door in places that I probably had no business at the time. But there was one investor I felt would just be a really great fit. And I reached out to him, and I met him in San Francisco, and he said no. And I asked him specifically the reasons he said no. And there was 2 or 3 reasons. We weren't ready. There was 1 or 2 sales that I needed to get across the line. Can't even remember the third one. And I said, can I come back to you when these 3 things have been solved? So he said, yes, that's fine. Probably not thinking that I'd come back. A couple of months later, we reached out and say, okay, these 3 things are solved. Where are you? So he's like, I'm in London. And this guy has 3 residences, 1 in New York, 1 in San Francisco, 1 in London. So that's where he kind of tends to spend his time. So he said, if you're around, in the next few months, let me know when you're in London. I actually happened to be there next week. I wasn't. Hopped on a plane. I was living in the States at the time. Flew to London, met him. I said, okay, so you said these 3 things for the reasons you said no. We fixed them. Will you invest? No. Okay. It's like, great. So there was another 1 or 2 reasons. I said, okay, let me come back to you and see if we can fix these things. And actually, I have a few ideas of how we can scale in other areas that I think you'd be really interested in. Fine, perfect. So a few months go past, and I said, okay, we've now achieved A, B, and C, what I spoke about. Would you invest? He said, I'm in New York. So I said, great, happy to be there next week. Back on the plane, over to meet him, and I knew we got the yes. But what was really, really interesting, I learned a lot from him, and I still would be really well connected with this investor. And he's a really inspirational guy that has seen it all. He was one of the very first investors in Meta. He's invested in any startup you could possibly think of, and he's seen it all. And he was kind of saying it's the difference between taking a no and kind of taking it kind of really almost kind of personally and saying, well, I'm never going back to this person again, or, this business is going to fail, versus saying it as kind of, okay, what can I learn from it? And I know that's a lot easier said than done. And it's the harder road to take, but it's also, it kind of gets you out of bed as well at the same time, because if you keep hearing no's and just literally hearing it as a definite no, like, you'll never do anything. But the same investor then again put me in touch with another really fantastic guy and said, look, if he's interested, like, you have to get on a plane and meet him. And I'll never forget it. I had a call with him, and I think it was about 15 minutes, and he's like, yeah, that's fine, I'm in LA tomorrow, but I'd love to meet you face to face. And I was like, oh my God. At this stage I was back in Ireland, and I never forget trying to get onto the plane, meet him in LA. I think I was just like living on coffee, I'd say, at that stage. But again, one of the big lessons I learned there again is like the importance of showing up. Um, you know, it's meeting somebody face to face. It's hard, and that's where the discipline comes in, actually kind of saying to yourself, no, I really need to do this. But it's also where you have to persevere. And again, I love saying that to some founders that it's not about working, around the clock. It's just being smart. It's just being smart with your time. If somebody can open the door, or if you can learn something from somebody and it's worth getting in the car, making the phone call instead of an email, which is the easier way to do it, you have to do it. Particularly in this time and age, I think AI is taking over, which is amazing. Emails are, the way to go, but don't lose that person to person. I used to write letters to say to customers, trying to get a meeting with them, anything that would be different and stand out, and just not lose that human connection.
Did you have money? It's because I just feel if someone was asking me to go to New York or LA and all this, I mean, granted, I might be getting a lot of money from them, but I'd just be like, God, I don't know if I can afford all this travel, let alone the time.
Well, we raised about 4 million with Talyvest, so we did it over 2 different rounds. I also now was not married and I did not have 2 kids, so I was also able to kind of hustle a little bit harder. Um, so no, thankfully we were kind of comfortable enough that way, and we did have very good sales as well, which was good. At the very beginning, I suppose the hustle really was when we did Techstars, which was an accelerator program, and that's when you're living on pizza all day, every day. And there was certainly no trips anywhere apart from just around London and back home and then back into the office.
When you got a yes from the first investors, what was it that they were buying into? Did you know at that stage what they thought was valuable?
I suppose looking back now, it was me. I wasn't actually raising money at the very beginning. Our very first investor was a fabulous guy called Ronan Harris, who at the time was the MD in Google. And again, I didn't reach out to him for investment. I reached out because I really wanted to get his perspective on what I was building. I wanted to know what I was building for the university sector. Would it be relevant for the corporate sector? So not only did I get a lot of insight from him to help, I suppose, make the decision on pivoting from building a product for the education sector, but actually validating that this would work for the corporate sector. And Google were ahead of their time as well, kind of really looking at somebody leaving as not a bad leaver, but as an opportunity to re-engage in some shape or form. And it was just during the conversation that I suppose investment came up very naturally, which was like, how are you going to fund this? At the time, it was just me. Um, so it kind of naturally got to a really lovely position where he just wanted to he, I suppose, understood the business, but he equally liked the business. And I think he felt that I was bold enough and stubborn enough to kind of see it through. So that's kind of how the first check really happened. And I suppose, again, without having the experience, but just, I suppose, looking at it back then, I almost looked at the investors as an extension of the team. We had a small team, and I kept looking at what skills don't I have that I can fill, if that makes sense. So the second investor we had on was a woman called Anne Harity, who ran CPL, and that just made so much sense to me, because I said, not only can, she be an amazing investor, but I can actually talk to her about the recruitment market. Would Talyvest work in the recruitment space? How could we scale it? How does the inside of a recruitment company work? So leveraging our investors in ways that I suppose I got the benefit out of it, that I was able to get their expertise, and they got the benefit out of it of investing in a company that, they got an investment back on. So I think that's kind of how I thought about it at the time, was like, who would be good for us, not just getting a check in. And I'm very thankful for that mindset, because I remember at the time we got approached by a syndicate in the UK of investors. And again, it really, like, when you're a young founder and you're like, I need to fund this business, like, it's very difficult to say no. If somebody comes to you with a pretty good offer, like, your natural instinct to say absolutely. But I just remember at the time, it just didn't feel right. It just, for whatever reason. And I remember saying no and being like, oh, it's just going to be one of these big stories in my head that I'm like, we have just, like, lost this business. Like, what am I doing? And it was the best thing we ever did, because then it kind of gave me the permission, I suppose, to kind of say, just because somebody offers you an investment doesn't mean you have to take it. So I think listening to my gut became, like, just so important to any other future decision.
You mentioned a little earlier that this whole thing is hard, right? It's really kind of tough going. There's a lot of no's and rejection, and things don't work out, and all of that. And I would say that's probably anyone who's in here sits across from me like this would say that, but they'd probably also say that they would have been a little bit naive to that before going in to, because it's just, you just have no idea how difficult it's going to be until you actually do something. Was that true in your case?
Oh, 100%. And I was actually thinking about that on the way over. So to give you, like, a real life example, and again, I'm smiling because I genuinely enjoy every minute of it. What myself and Sarah say is that we're very lucky. We've never had a bad day. We've had challenging days, but we don't have a bad day. But we arrived over to the manufacturer that makes our product, and they're absolutely amazing. They're a family run business, and they again, I feel like they're an extension of Oak. But we arrived over, and this was our going to be our biggest order yet. We had our 2 new flavors that we had to make with them. We were testing our new oak crumb with them. We were getting about 15 pallets shipped over like that week, and it was a long day ahead of us when we got over there. And we got over, and the main ingredient we needed never arrived. Their machine that rolled the balls was broken. And there's only 4 of us there. There's a small team over there, and we kind of were like, oh my God, like what else could happen? We then realized they had wrapped 2,000 protein balls in the wrong wrapper. So that's kind of where our day began. We had to go through 2,000 protein balls, opening them, putting them back into the right package. Not only did we have to roll up our sleeves, the whole team in the production company had to roll up their sleeves, including people come from finance, everybody physically rolling protein balls. And again, like we could have looked at that and said, this is just a disaster. But we didn't. We kind of said, look, we have to get this order done. That's just it. Um, so I feel like on our journey, there's going to be so many things like that happen. I suppose another story that again, it's funny stuff back because we're only here for 8 months, but I feel it could be a lot longer in many years. Sorry, in many ways. But when we started the protein balls, you obviously go through different iterations of the product themselves. So we thought the first time that we got it right, the protein balls, and the taste wasn't there. And then we had to go back and make a second batch. And the big challenge sometimes is that you're then stuck with stock, and you're kind of deciding, right, do we sell it? Even though we know it's not really that great, we know this one is way better. What do you do with it? So these lessons are really new to me because I know I'm coming from tech. You can build something, ship it off. It's software, you never see it. This is a physical product, and people are really passionate about food. Like I have never experienced passion like I have when it comes to people telling you what they like about your food, what they don't like about your food, how sensitive palates are. If we change one ingredient, it can be felt, it can be tasted. Customers are emotional if something is just not right. So you really feel what your customers feel. So that's why we're really regimented about these protein balls, because we're literally physically there seeing how they're made. But there is challenges that happen all the time. So I think it's about the perspective you take with it. And it's only the more I get into it and the more conversations I have with other founders in this space, that it does happen to everybody. And even a very good friend of mine, Sinead, she runs a company called Sinead Kiri. It's a clothing company. And I remember talking to her about her first batch, and she got, I think, 50,000 of these beautiful vests that she was selling in. And then she realized that they just were not put together properly. And she tells the story herself. But herself and her team drove all around Ireland, finding every zip yard, trying to go and fix this product before, it was sold. So it's just perspective on how it, and I think it's going into it knowing that it's not going to be a straight road.
A number of weeks ago, I had Michelle Walsh on the podcast, who's a food business veteran, and a lot of the conversation was about how difficult the food business is, and how it's just so much to it. As you were saying there, there's the whole customer's kind of emotional attachment, but there's also, if you just look at the whole, there's the ingredients, there's the getting the mix right, there's the distribution, there's sales and marketing, there's finance, difficult finance. Oftentimes you have to finance things ahead of when they're sold. Regulatory, it's just a minefield, right? So when I was preparing for this, I was looking at your background in tech, and I was like, why is this person going into food? I just couldn't really understand it. So why are you doing this?
I love the product, and I almost hope that customers get a reassurance when they do find out that I have no experience in food. Sarah does. That's her department. I came at this because I could not find a product that tasted as good. Like I was, as I said, there was products coming in right, left and center from all sorts. That's what I was driven by. I was like, I need something that tastes good. I was pregnant. I had like huge cravings. You do not want to be around a pregnant person with massive cravings that they can't satisfy. And I just couldn't find anything better. I I wanted something that I could give to Ollie. I wanted something that I could give to Paddy, my husband, and say, take that on the golf course. I could just see it working. It was an itch I had to scratch. I was fully open to it failing because, like, you know, I had to be open to it. And that's kind of, I think, the really gorgeous thing about the start of Oak is that we were starting this purely just driven by the fact of saying, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, that's okay. But I think the fact we have 75% of a recurring customer rate, we have customers ordering us from everywhere in Ireland. We have a subscription business apart from it that we're seeing that this has become part of people's routines. We had a girl on to us last week that she had to go back to Australia and she's just run out of crumb. Is there any way that we can post it over there? Because she just can't imagine her breakfast starting without crumb. Those little things just drive me so much with this. And I'm saying people are feeling good. They're enjoying it, most importantly. So yes, you can get totally bogged down on like the challenges, you know, all the different actually legalities coming into it about like how to position your product and the certificates that you have to get with it. But also, if I went down that lane, I also could have said, well, I'm 5 months pregnant. This is madness starting a business. I'm 5 months pregnant. What am I doing having a commercial kitchen in my back garden? You can stack all the reasons why you shouldn't do something up, and it's very easy to say, I just won't bother. But I really could see this work because I knew I would buy the product. I knew my friends wanted this product. I could see my mom's friends wanting this product. So it's very easy to keep going when you're seeing that it's being consumed, it's being enjoyed. We're very, very fortunate that we're doing well. I'm very fortunate that I have a team that can take on a lot of those challenges and supply chain issues and the ingredients. But I think as long as we stay true to ourselves and keep going back to, is this making people happy and satisfied? That helps the bad days.
The flexibility in your kind of mindset must help as well. Like, I think for me personally, if I'm too kind of married to my business or to the outcome as such, or it's, I feel like it's my baby, that kind of creates a lot of anxiety and restriction. And when you were talking there about, this might actually fail and you were okay with that, I kind of thought that just kind of must give you a kind of a sense of freedom a little bit.
I've done the burnout. I've done it, I've done the travel, I've done that side of it and I loved it, but it's hard. Life is hard. You have one life. What changed for me is when I became a mum, and I didn't have all the hours in the day to say I'm going to, be up at 6 and work till 8 o'clock and, that be my new lifestyle. I didn't want that. When I sold Tallyvest, I got to reflect a lot on what I enjoyed and what I didn't enjoy. And when we were acquired, I had my first son, Ollie, and he was 6 weeks old. I was still working. And like, I think when you're so in the weeds of it, you don't even know if you're enjoying it, if you're not enjoying it. I just remember feeling wrecked. And, coming together with Sarah to say, the most important thing is that we want to enjoy this. At the end of the day, we're not saving lives. We're making people happy. And I think we get a huge joy out of knowing that what we're fueling customers with is good quality ingredients. What we're feeding people with is protein, which is what we all need in our lives. We're feeding people with collagen to help their bones. Where we're seeing the market with all the GLP-1s going with this, the importance of protein, and we can stand over a product, be so proud of it. But at the end of the day, there's only so much we can do. And I'm not prepared to jeopardize my mum role, which is my most important role. So we do as much as we possibly can. We're both thankfully brilliant at delegating. We know our team are an extended version of our family at this stage. So we all put love and passion into what we do. But of course, we don't want people burnt out. We don't want to ever come into work feeling like, God, do we have to do this again? And I'm not saying that it's perfect every day. As I said, there's no bad days, but there's hard days. There is hard days, but we always do our best to do it together, if that makes sense. But I do want to be able to live and enjoy my family and not feel like, my business comes first, my business comes second. But I do believe you can have the best of both worlds.
Why did you sell Tallyvest?
It's just the right time. Like there's no other way around it. I did it for 7 years. This was 3 pivots. I wanted to learn. I really wanted to learn. I was craving I suppose I was craving trying to understand like how do the big businesses work. I felt I brought Tallyvest to a certain stage. The company that acquired us is called Go One. They're an Australian online company, and I felt the fit was really good. That our analytic ability worked really well with their online learning platform.
They own Blinkist. Is this the
Correct.
yes?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and the founders were amazing. We both shared a similar investors. So it was very personal. It wasn't cold. We'd been talking for a very long time. It sounds like a dating or something that we're. It's like eventually a marriage proposal. But I knew Andrew very well. He was the CEO at the time, and it just was a natural fit. It was a natural conversation. I was ready for it. I felt the company was ready for it too. So like in the end, it was the right thing to do.
Was it a relief in any way selling Tallyvest?
In many ways, I mean, I suppose the battle I would have had in my head, just again naturally, I suppose being the way that I'd have an outlook in life, I'd always say, well, we could have done more. What if we, actually went back to the drawing board and we looked at it this way and we scaled it this way? And I suppose that's just the natural instinct in me. But no, I knew deep down it was the thing to do. I knew I had maybe another year or two of it in me, but I knew I needed something different. I knew I wanted to get in to a big company. I wanted to understand how does a big company scale? What happens in the room when you're actually having these big conversations? I knew I wouldn't do something again. I didn't know what it was. But it was nice. I thought I'd relax more, funnily enough. I kind of did have that kind of vision in my head that I'm like, of course I can open the laptop at 9 and close it at 5 and not think about it again. And that didn't work. So I definitely wasn't built for that type of work. Once I'm on, I'm on.
It's interesting that you wanted to go into a big company. I think most, let's say, smaller companies that sell into a strategic buyer, that whole part of it's actually the most boring part, if you like. They don't want to spend time working for another big company. They want to go off and do the next thing. But for you, I suppose it was a little bit different.
I think my role was very different in there, so that definitely helped. And they acquired Blinkist about maybe 6 months into when I started. And I got to know the founders of Blinkist very well. And I got to work with Toby, one of their co-founders. And that in a way felt like a startup. So I suppose I wasn't going in with a typical role. The role was very much what did I need it to be. So every day, every week was a little bit different. So that was definitely really good. I think where the frustration was, which happens in any company of that size, is decisions don't happen that quickly. So you're kind of sitting and saying, I know this is going to be good. We just go and do it. And sometimes there is a process you have to follow. There is hoops you have to jump. That was kind of very new to me. So that was kind of, I think, what I find challenging about it. But also, again, a relief knowing this is the way that it is. It's not just me thinking this is what happens.
Have you raised money now for Oak, or how has that kind of started financially?
No, we're completely self-funded. I want to self-fund it for as long as we possibly can. I'm very, and Sarah is where, we're both very fortunate that we can fund it if we need to. I love the flexibility of that. And again, I'm very lucky that I haven't had any bad experiences with investors. We've had, kind of the opposite really, but we just want to be able just to go and run as fast as we possibly can. There's a couple of strategic investors we're speaking to over in the US, and I think that could be really interesting, but at the right time. But I mean, at the moment, it just means we can run as fast as we can. We don't have to report to anybody. Now that, there's obviously disadvantages with that as well. But I also think sometimes, and again, I kind of would be challenging other founders with this too. When you have to be lean, you actually come up with better ideas. You can kind of do things differently, and sometimes that's for the better. It's a nice comfort pillow sometimes knowing, well, I don't really have to get out there and sell. I don't really have to go out and do that because I've got cash in the bank. Sometimes you're going to need that push.
Hmm. Tell me just about kind of what the business looks like. You mentioned that you have a manufacturer, say, of the product, but kind of in number of people, what you're all doing. Is it mostly marketing? Are you still selling just direct to consumer? What does it all kind of look like on a map?
So totally different setup to Tallyvest. AI is the foundation for everything we do, which again is not probably what you'd expect from a food business. I would very much describe Oak as an e-commerce business first, which I'm fascinated with, and I love it because again, the analytics that we have, even today versus 2 years ago are just, they're incredible. We just really know our consumer so well, so well. Um, so we have a team of four full time. We've just recently hired a fantastic woman called Cash who came from Pepsi, and she has that experience with the supply chain management. And she's just blowing us away because she's building these systems with AI, everything from telling us when our packaging is running low, to already setting us up with manufacturers in the US, how that would work. Everything we're trying to do, we're trying to build with AI in mind. How do we quicken the process up? Like we couldn't have started up without that. Even just simple things like doing plans, coming up with first time imagery, marketing plans. I mean, it's been a phenomenal how much it actually incorporated into our business. We're trying to keep the team as lean as possible. So we have a beautiful mix of, we have a creative director who does everything social, myself and Sarah between kind of ops and strategy, and then Kat doing the supply. So we all wear different hats. We're also the people that are packing the product. We were the people making the product. We've worn every hat. But where it is really interesting is that we do have an external team, but it's all through Upwork, which I've never used before. And we have a full-time web developer through it. We have a full-time email marketer through it. We have a full-time designer through it. Never met them in person, but they're amazing. And I never thought something like that would work, and it's working unbelievable. So that's really new experience for me, but we love it. Like,
Where
as
are
you
they
may say,
based? The
so
Upwork?
Portugal and the UK.
Yeah, I mean it's amazing. Because we use offshore staff in the Philippines in my company. We've done it from the start, and I can't believe everyone's not doing it. It's just almost like it's in everyone's
I
faces,
think
kind of
it
offshoring.
sounds daunting, and
Mm.
like, again, like when we first started the business, I did have that mindset because with Tally, I said we did have a big team, and I was kind of saying, crikey, I was like, how are we going to like manage, you know, all the different SKUs? Because again, in e-commerce business, there's quite a lot going on, and then you also have to kind of be mindful that like you need like people actually going into stores and physically packing things and everything. Um, so we just tried it and we just got really, really lucky. Like we love the team and they've worked with, huge companies before, from like the Body Shop to like Grazia Oil, like brands you think have these huge teams behind them, and there so many of them are done through Upwork. And it's really cost effective as well. So that's been huge for us to actually be able to kind of have access to these amazing consultants just online, and they're very quick. Like they're very good at what they do.
And so, are you selling into retail now, or what does that look like?
So we, again, I think we're probably like a little bit rebellious. So what I'm learning more and more
You're from
about,
Cork,
yeah,
so
I know, it's kind of in our blood. It's kind of in our DNA, sadly.
uh,
Um, I suppose and going back to, I suppose, how myself and Sarah are different. But when we started, I kind of said, look, if we're going to do this, we're going to do it properly. Going to do it big. Why not? Um, so when we first started, I think the traditional thing to do was you go and you do your market research. You go and you figure out what packaging would work. You go and talk to your super values and duns and you pitch them whatever. And I decided, no, we're not going to do any of that. I said, let's just make the product. I said, before even like the name, I think we had just come up with the name, and I made the landing page to say, Oak, we do protein balls, waitlist here. And that just kept on growing and growing and growing. I was like, okay, it's like, so we need to make at least like 5,000 protein balls in order to kind of sustain this order. And oh my God, the packaging, looking back at it now, it was like cellophane with a sticker in like those awful, like brown postage bags. But we just were like, we just need to do it. Let's not think too much about it and does it get the way at the door. The first week we went live, we again didn't expect it to be as in demand as it was. I won't name the postal service, but they basically lost 4 bags of orders, which was like so much at the time. And customers were not happy and we weren't happy. So I think at that stage I was like 6 months pregnant or something. And I just decided I was going to drive and deliver all of the protein balls. I drove everywhere in Munster, um, till like 10 o'clock that night, meeting customers face to face, be like, I'm really sorry. But here are your 14 balls. Which was great fun to look back on. But
Well, they must have appreciated a pregnant lady showing up late at night.
yeah, I think they kind of were. I just decided, I was like, no, this just isn't good enough. I was like, this isn't, it was out of our control. And there was a part of me that, of course you can say, look, you're really sorry. This postal service, they screwed up. Here's 10% of whatever. I was like, no, it's just not good enough. So yeah, they definitely weren't expecting a pregnant lady to show up. And I just think they were a little bit taken aback, but all really important lessons. And I was actually excited because I really wanted to be able to be like, where did you hear about us? And what exactly made you want to order from us? And we still have those customers that we know really well because we do so many in-person tasting events and focus groups. And we love that because we're able to sit in front of someone and be like, so Connor, tell us, what do you really think? And I mean, don't hold back. So we have a lovely relationship with our customers because of that. But I suppose going back to how we started the product, and I remember a few of the kind of enterprise boards and everything really kind of obviously being supportive, but kind of saying, calm down, like, you're going too fast here. And I say, no, we're not going fast enough. It's like, we need to get it out. So in my mind and Sarah's mind, we're like, the best feedback is doing it. If there's like 5 things that go wrong, 5 things go wrong, but at least we know. So within 6 weeks, we could say we built a website, built a product, got customers. I didn't want to be saying a 6 week we have a business plan, or 6 week we decided what a concept looks like. We did the packaging over the last 8 months. This is the 3rd iteration of it. We're already on to like the 4th and the 5th for next year because I'm learning with food. You could have an idea today, but if you want that idea to flourish or to actually happen, like you decide tomorrow, because it will take about 6 months for lead time to actually go through the ring. And again, going back to making sure you have all the proper labeling correct and barcodes and everything. So yeah, we didn't sit on our hands. I think a lot of food companies, I would feel for them because again, you're being told a lot of no's in terms of like, no, it must be done this way. And I was kind of saying, well, actually, it doesn't need to be done that way. Maybe it was done that way in the past, but if there's an opportunity here, why would you sit on it for 6 months when it could pass you by?
Tell me about, so you said, and this is probably true, I'm not calling you a liar or anything, but basically you said that you know nothing about the food industry, right? Which is probably true. Or knew nothing about it coming in. You probably know a lot more now. But you must be taking stuff, your experience basically with Talivest and going through that whole cycle from startup to fundraising to eventual exit. You must have picked up so much from that experience that you're now using day to day even. Could you talk to me just a little bit about what some of those things are?
Customer experience. I don't, and I would be really passionate about this. I don't care what type of business you're in. If your customer does not have a good experience, then I just don't think that customer deserves to stay with you. And I really do feel that strongly about it. With Oak, even though, see, the first packaging was not great, we made sure that we had a handwritten letter in every single one. We had a follow-up. Myself and Sarah's phone numbers were on it. Every single email, text, Instagram message, X message, TikTok message that was sent our way, we picked up within minutes. And we made it like our business to do that. It didn't matter if it was on the weekend, on the weekday, and I'm not saying that that's scalable or that was the right thing to do, but my God, for the first few months, like we listened and we wanted to make sure that they were heard. All of our customers, we wanted to know, like, we've taken what you said on board. Doesn't matter if it's positive, negative, whatever it was. With Talivest, it was the exact same. We probably had a customer support manager before we needed one. I wanted to know if a customer was happy, if they weren't happy, could we be doing a better job? I think the minute anybody feels comfortable in the role, something's wrong. I feel if you're not talking to your customer at least once a week, not in a way that you want to annoy them, but checking in, understanding about the customer, what's coming up in their roadmap, how can you help? I love the phrase of give first, not take. Just because they're a customer doesn't mean you can't have that human to human interaction with them, like understand what they're going through. So that's a huge part of our business, is that like human element. We don't just say like, oh, we have a community, because everybody will say you have a community. We genuinely feel like it's just we're building something special that we want people to be a part of. We want to take feedback. We want to actually incorporate it in. We did that with Tallyvest. We would sit down with customers and say, like, we're building this. What do you think? And it's a really again, I feel it's dangerous if you don't do that, because again, we're all, very capable of saying, I have this really good idea. I'm going to go and build something that I think is going to be really great. And you could spend months building something or creating a product and then putting it to the market, and actually nobody really wants it. I love the idea of saying, let's build it. Let's go and get people to taste it. And then if we see what the feedback is, and then we'll go and we launch it. So even though, yes, the food industry is very different to the tech industry, like, at the end of the day, you're selling to a person, and business is all about people. It's about relationships. People want to buy from companies and people that they like, that they trust. I think trust is just a huge feature in it. And myself and Sarah at the moment feature quite heavily even on our socials, because we're both moms. We're both hugely into fitness. We're both busy. We're, trying to do a lot. And we genuinely love to be able to say, like, these fuel our day. They fuel our kids. They fuel our lifestyle. Like, we're in Dublin today, and I think I've had 3 of them. I'm not saying you should have 3 of them, but you're on the go, and you don't want to sacrifice, getting a bar in the shop that you don't really enjoy, or that's not good for you. We want people to know that we're actually consuming this product, and that trust is there. We're not just saying it, for the sake of it. We're living, breathing, like, enjoying the snacks as much as our customers are.
Do you think you'll be in Oak for longer than you were in Tallyvest? And I ask because I think uh, even hearing you talk about the kind of connection with the customers and trust and the kind of passion you have for that side of the business, and you had it with Tallyvest, right? Is what you said. But I don't know if you'll tell me basically, but I don't know if you were as passionate back then, or if you were kind of always thought you might sell. What do you think about in terms of longevity compared for the two companies?
I feel like we're just getting started. This is a very, very different business. This is a business where I feel the market opportunity is huge. The food industry is moving faster than I ever anticipated it to. We were in Cologne 2 weeks ago at a conference called ISM, which is one of the largest snack conferences in the world. And just seeing the conversations that folks are having, that retailers are having, consumers are having, like, we're really getting started in terms of customers demanding almost that they want better products. You see it in the bigger companies like, the Cadburys, any big food brand, like, they're taking notice. They're looking at their portfolio and saying, like, we need to change something up here. People are asking questions. Our customers want something different. We're smaller. We can move fast. I love the pace that we're going at. We can come up with a product, test the product, and then we can go and make the product. We don't have to sit in it for 6 months or 12 months. We can come up with something that we know our customers want and just go at it. So I feel we're only at the start. I feel we're minding ourselves at the moment. We're in a nice position. We say no a lot. We know where our product is best placed. We want it to be minded. We don't want it to be put in the back of a store somewhere. We want to keep learning from our consumers. We're a part of their day already. They buy us online. It's part of their subscription as well. If they, they never have to think about, oh my God, I have to go and get my snacks. They're already there. We really, really, really want to just lean into that as much as we can. We're in certain retail, and that's purely to understand what's the behavior like. And we're in the retail stores that our customers have told us where they love us to be in, which is really interesting. And again, having that direct communication with our consumers is brilliant. But we're just getting started. We've just launched a new crumb, and I'm very excited about this because I feel granola has kind of had the spotlight for the last couple of years, and it's kind of been on a journey where it's now almost kind of like a sweet. It's just so full of sugar, and we wanted something a bit different. We know with the GLP-1s, which is only again, very much increasing in its popularity and coming into Europe in a big way, the importance of whey and the importance of collagen. And we kind of said, let's try and build a product that again is suitable for everybody, but again tastes amazing. So we made this crumb product. So the consistency is very different, but it's also just so good for you. It's great for your bones, great for your protein. And again, if you look at any supermarket, the Greek yogurts are now just, they're the first yogurt to be gone. They're just so popular at the moment. So again, we know that paired with the Greek yogurt, you're getting like 30 grams of protein first thing in the morning time without even thinking about it, but you're enjoying it as well. So I'm really, really excited about that particular market and seeing what we can do there. We are thinking then about a bar form as well. We see a lot of the OAC Snacks being enjoyed, say on a golf course or paddle, or tennis. So again, we're trying to think about convenience, again, bringing it back to that customer experience. What can we do? But then there's other kind of fun products we're looking at, kind of saying like what needs to be shaken up a little bit. But again, keeping in mind, we want it to be enjoyable, not, oh God, I suppose we're going to have this.
Oh, I totally get it, right? I think I'm the perfect customer for this, because there's so much out there. If we look at the stuff I grew up eating, right? The kind of, yeah, and even some of the protein bars, as you were mentioning earlier, you look at the ingredients, you're like, God, it's full of chemicals, it's full of stuff I don't even understand. And it's only really now that, and I'm kind of always been into health, into fitness, and it's only kind of now I'm really starting to understand the kind of impact that these really kind of highly processed foods are having. They might be low sugar, they might be high in protein, but they're not necessarily good for us, or help our health span. And I also saw, I haven't watched the documentary, but the Lean in 15 guy, I forget his name.
Oh, Wicks, Joe Wicks?
Joe Wicks.
Yeah.
He has a documentary. I don't know.
I've seen it.
Have you seen it? And apparently most protein bars are bad for us.
Yeah, it was actually it was definitely overwhelming to watch. Yeah, but I mean, look, it is what it is. I mean, there's always going to be room for those type of protein bars. Really high in protein. But then again, you're sacrificing then quite a bit. If you're going to have the high protein, there's other bits and pieces that maybe you might necessarily have. And I don't even think we're competing against them, because we're not promising that you get 20 grams of protein and it's going to be 100 calories. We're saying it's, 200 calories, you get 10 grams of protein, but you're going to really, really enjoy it. And that's what we promise. And that the fact is you can look at the back of pack and you can trust that this is what's in your product. I thought what was really interesting being at the ISM Clone Conference is just how prominent those protein bars still are, and how they're trying to, I suppose, trick the customer. One that we'd see now quite a bit is they have on the label 25% protein. You'd look at it and say, oh my God, 25 grams of protein. It's not 25%. And then they'd say, again, low in sugar. But it's actually not when you actually look at the ingredients and actually say, well, actually, it might be low sugar, but it's very high in another category. So I think, again, it's that trust. And I think customers are becoming attuned to it. And we hear that all of the time. We were in one of our retailers this morning and every single person looked at the back of pack. Every person. And that's not an exaggeration. I mean, we get questions, pretty much every day about our ingredients as well. Where is it sourced? How's it made? And I think that's only going to get more present.
What does the future hold for this? You said you wanted to go big. So what do you see as, what's big in your mind?
So I suppose our biggest ambition is we are getting outside of Ireland as quick as we can. We love working in Ireland to start with because the test bed is so interesting. And the UK is the next natural fit for us. So we're going to be live in 50 stores in April. So we're excited about that. We're excited about learning, how are folks thinking about over there? What's the behavior like? It's a bigger market. There's more competitive, I suppose, brands there as well. But again, we're still very different to a lot of the competitor brands. We're not in that protein kind of bar competitive space. So the UK for the next one, a big part of our business, as I mentioned, is the subscription. So we want to land and expand in regions like the US, potentially Dubai as well. And in the UK, where subscription is very much just a part of your life. It's just routine. I think in Ireland, we're getting better. We're not quite there yet. It's still kind of elementary. It's still trying to kind of figure out how does that fit into your daily life. Then we're just having fun with one or two product partnerships at the moment, which we can't talk about right now. But in Q3, we're really excited. That's going to be like a big one for us that we kind of see a particular partnership getting us to the global stage faster than we could have thought. So that's kind of 2026 and 2027 is kind of just very much that expansion. But in the background, then there's a couple of new flavors coming out, a couple, one or two new products as well, which I'm very excited about. That's the best thing about this job. You just get to taste and eat all day, every day.
Well, I'm thinking, thank you very much for bringing me in some snacks. And I'm just thinking, I need to have more product people on the podcast so
I
I can
know.
get more gifts. It's all, for me, it's great. It's great because I always get little samples or whatever. So I'm really looking forward to trying them.
Yeah, there has to be a prick somewhere.
Jayne Ronayne, thank you very much for coming on. It's been a great conversation and we wish you the best of luck with Oak in the future.